Welcome to the sixth session, and I'll share the screen. And this sixth session is called "What Do You Really Want?" We've practiced the 5 elements practice. We practiced turning towards the difficult, the discomfort. And we've talked about the last week, and we use this method called 50-50 awareness. And if you remember, I talked about there being 3 elements to mindfulness. The first is the approach, is what's the quality of attention we're using here. The second is the practice, and that's just really like the exercise, the practice of sitting and using our attention, learning how to focus our attention, or to open our attention, or to keep our attention on one thing, and when it wanders off, bringing it back. And the course is modeled on what we did over those 3 days, and looking at body sensations, action, impulses, thoughts, and emotions. And the last few sessions have been about emotions, and this one is a little bit, but it's going more into impulses as well. So you'll remember these 3 elements, these 3 aspects of the universe: energy, matter, and meaning. And this is from all kinds of esoteric, but also quantum physics. And you might remember the practice we did, what do you really want? So what we're doing is ramping up this, what's called craving, this sense of wanting something, always wanting because we have a sense of lack, that there is something missing in each moment. And most of the discomfort that we have, in fact, all the discomfort that we have, is related to the idea that there's something lacking, and that's also part of the suffering of being separate, feeling separate, not feeling whole. And so we fill this lack with things to eat, things to do, things to think. The process of thinking that brings the whole universe of appearances into matter is a process of wanting, sensing lack, and the appearance of things that seem separate to us. So in this week, we want to look at how we can change this, how we can reverse the direction, so that there is surrender into nothing and everything. And nothing means there is no kind of meaning other than just this, which is what occurs when we surrender to this here. And that starts with gratitude practice. So when you feel gratitude, it's impossible to want and feel gratitude at the same time. You can just try this now. So just think of 3 things that you are grateful for in your life. And when you truly feel this gratitude, or maybe another word is when you really appreciate them, it's very difficult to want something. It's almost like a gestalt. You can't see both at the same time. So when you start to feel gratitude for things, and then you start to reverse this cycle. So we did this 50-50 listening. So as I said, there are three aspects to mindfulness. There's the approach, which is what we're going to start to explore with this, starting with gratitude. And then there's the practice, and then there's integration. And the integration is, how do we integrate mindfulness into our daily lives? And one of the main ways of doing that is remembering to drop the balloon during your day. But the other one is this 50-50 listening. So 50% of your attention is on your body and the breath, and 50% is on listening to whoever's speaking or whatever's happening outside. Now, if you work with people at all, maybe you've been taught active listening, which is this idea that you give 100% of your attention to the person listening. Okay. And I would suggest that this doesn't work. You can't give 100% of your attention. You're just pretending. You're just trying to look like you are, but part of you is still occupied with yourself, or you're thinking about what they're saying and putting yourself in their shoes and thinking, how can I fix their problem? Or I can't wait to tell them how I have the similar experience to that. I would say 50-50 listening is true listening. And something remarkable happens when you practice this with people when they're talking. They start to listen to themselves talking. And that's the most valuable thing as well, because if you're doing 50-50 listening, they start to listen to themselves as they're speaking. And everything they might need to learn, they learn just from listening to themselves, if that makes sense. So I recommend that you try this with people if you're in a situation that you can listen to them, or you need to listen to them 50% and 50% listening to your body and your breath, because actually you're not just listening with your ears, then you're listening with your whole physiology. So it is listening in some ways, but your whole body becomes the ear. I hope that makes sense. So we've looked at these theories of emotion, the 6 emotional styles in the brain, the three circles of emotional regulation, which is about the nervous system, which is like the 3 modes of being: the drive, the threat, the soothing. And we looked at the 5 basic emotions last week. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on the 6 emotional styles in the brain, because this is how the brain deals with the information arriving from the senses and the emotions. And this is Richard Davidson, which is quite recent, in the last 5 years. And when he talks about emotional styles in the brain, there's circuits in the brain between different parts of the brain. And he categorizes 6, but we're going to work with just 4. But I'll go through the 6 very quickly. The most important aspect of these slides is right at the bottom. So you have a positive outlook on one end, an optimist, a negative outlook on the other end, somebody who always talks about the problems. So it's not to say that one or the other is better. It's where you want to be. So maybe you notice that you're always optimistic, but sometimes that's not so useful. So how can you move towards the negative a little bit? Or if you're always negative, how can you become more positive? That's one of the styles. The other style is attention. And this is to do with phase locking in the parietal cortex and the prefrontal cortex. So these are literally circuits, like racing circuits in the brain, that relate to these different styles. And you have one style which is very focused, so focused that you don't notice if there's something happening around you, or unfocused if you find it difficult to focus on one thing. So as I'm going through these, maybe you'll recognize yourself. Where are you on this continuum? So maybe both extremes are not ideal. And then you have resilience. And resilience is how quickly do you recover from setback? If something happens, does it put you in a bad mood for the rest of the week, or can you recover quickly? Now, a combination of these styles can indicate likelihood that you will be depressed. For instance, if you have slow recovery and negative outlook, then you're more likely to be depressed. Fast recovery, sometimes you recover very quickly, but you haven't learned anything from the situation. And this is very much a debate between the right prefrontal cortex and the left prefrontal cortex, and how much connection they have with the amygdala, which is the emotional base in the center of the brain. Self-awareness. So the insula is what's monitoring your internal state, and the somasensory cortex is monitoring your general body and reporting on it. So some people are self-opaque, which means they have absolutely no idea what they're feeling. Sometimes men are like this. They know what they're thinking, but they have no access to what they feel. And then you have people who are so self-aware, they're always talking about their feelings, that maybe they're hypochondriac, oh my God, I've got this, so there are extremes in either way, but that's another style. Where do you lie in this one? Then you have social intuition, which means how good are you at noticing what other people feel, just through the expressions on their face, their body language. Are you able to read it? Or are you absolutely, in a party, you're totally puzzled by what people, what's going on for people? My son, who has autism, really struggles to know what people actually mean when they speak, because he can't read all the subtext. So he's very much puzzled in social situations, but he learns to deal with it. And this is very much to do with fusiform gyrus, which reads body language, and oxytocin, and again, the emotional base, the amygdala. Then there's context sensitivity. So are you somebody who laughs in a funeral and cries in a wedding? That's the kind of tuned out situation. Or you tuned in, you know exactly how to behave in every situation, to the point where you're like a chameleon and nobody actually knows who you really are, because you just change all the time. And this is interesting because it's the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus, which is the center of memory in the brain. That's the circuit for that one. So those are the 6 styles, emotional styles in the brain, but we focus on 4, because these 4, Richard Davidson represent the pillars of mental health, of well-being. So really exercising these 4 pillars can ensure your mental health. And this is a slide from the curriculum I developed for young people. So again, outlook is how you see the world. Attention is how well you can control your attention and focus it, or widen your attention. Resilience is how quickly you recover from setback. Generosity. So generosity is kind of an added pillar, but he's recognized that as a very important balance. And generosity is simply kindness, how kind you can be, if you like. And what's interesting about these 4 different pillars is they represent 4 different kinds of meditation. So outlook is loving kindness, metta, it's called. So we can change that. And what's amazing about outlook and generosity to some extent is that you can change those in one session. Attention and resilience take a lot more practice to change in the brain, but outlook and generosity can be changed quite quickly. So the attention is concentration meditation, shamatha. a resilience. This is strengthened by having that kind of distance, that diffused attention, so that things arise and you notice. So the thought comes, you watch it where it comes from, where it goes, so it doesn't have the power over you to make you feel like you're a failure. It's just a thought. And Vipassana, maybe. I'm not sure Vipassana is the right one for that. It's different in different texts. But that open, choiceless awareness. And then generosity is compassion meditation, Tonglen. And actually, almost all meditations fall into one of these 4 categories. So I'm going to pause there in a minute, but what we're going to go on to do is practice. It's almost like a total mental health workout to practice these 4 pillars of well-being. And we're going to use some of the techniques joined together that we've already learned. And that do that. Check if there are any questions about any of that. So I don't have to go back to the slides. Let me just show you the 4 pillars practice. Will be the practice for this week. And then the hack, if you like, is the 50-50 listening, seeing how that works for you. So any questions relating to any of that? And a lot of information there, whether it's relevant. It's just another way of cutting the cake. But if you work with people, it's quite a useful tool. And this is very empiric. I don't know if you can translate that. Empiric means based on real evidence. It's not theory as such as actually looking at how brains work.
For me, it's very interesting, this 50-50 listening, because especially in acting, on stage, you are training your attention to be super focused on your partner. And it's true that you cannot be 100%. I mean, I tried it multiple times, especially if I had parts where I was not speaking too much. I mean, I could listen for extensive periods of time, and you cannot do it 100%. How hard I had the parts where I had to listen for about 45 minutes because there was a scene happening in front of me and I was just the raisonneur. People would see reactions on my face, or I would like the objective observer. But that's where I trained my listening, but I couldn't do it 100%. I couldn't. It's this is like a real interesting hack that I will try it. It's really cool. It's really nice. I love it. I like this one.
I think the only time you give 100% externally is when your life is in danger.
Yeah, I want to say this. Yeah, but that's you don't have it for an extensive period of time. It's for a brief moment, maybe minutes, even. But for a whole hour, I don't see people doing it for a whole hour. Or for 15 minutes, or it's a train wreck and everybody's like, when you're super focused. But at one point, you're going to check yourself. You're going to check your emotion. You're going to check your thoughts. You're going to check. You cannot be 100% outside.
Any other questions about those? I mean, there's a lot of information there. I've shared 3 different models of emotional regulation, emotional system in the brain, emotions. And it's difficult for me to explain how they relate to each other, but I think they're very different approaches to our experience of being a human, but they're all relevant in some ways. Okay, any other thoughts about any of that you want to share before we try this 4 pillars of well-being? And I'll talk you through it before we do it.
I somehow feel that I need to meditate on them, because this is not something that I gave real thought as some in my general view of life. So I never tried to see to find a model, which model suits best, or what is the model I operate. So this is like an information that now is sinking in. I'm thinking about it. Oh, there is something like this. Oh, so you, because I had a discussion with you. We talked about this at one point when we first came about these models, and I reflect sometimes, but somehow I feel that I need to go deeper in the sense of having more information, because this is how my mind operates. So I probably I would need to go deeper in this exploration. Otherwise, these 3 models, I can only say, yeah, cool, we have them. But it's nice that they exist. I'm happy that there was a person who thought about them, but I also need to do my homework somehow and try to figure out how this works in my worldview, you know, try to integrate them and see, oh, okay. So because I need something to relate it to, something that I already know, and I have to fit it in the boxes that I already have in my brain, you know. But it is fascinating for me to hear it from this perspective also, not just from because it collaborates with mindfulness, and somehow oh, okay, so the mind works like this, and mindfulness fits in this Weltanschauung. So okay, it uses this just to prove that there's no mind at the end of the day. So I'm trying to wrap my head around this, you know.
In a way, I guess the way I see it is, this is how the machine works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's not who we really are. This is how the flesh robot works.
Yes.
And
we have a saying in theater. They say, learn your text so you can afford to forget it.
Yeah.
Because the mind needs to understand so it can lose itself.
Yeah.
Otherwise the brain and the mind will keep on searching for answers. So somehow you need to give him, okay, now I'm safe, it's okay, I know how it works, I don't care anymore, you know. Otherwise it will keep on asking questions. So the more bulletproof the model is, the more relaxed the brain will be, to really have a gap and see in between the thoughts.
Yeah, it's like giving the dog, the intellect, a bone to chew. But
exactly.
But it's also about, for instance, emotions. I don't think we know what emotions are, but we don't. We really don't know what anger is,
Mm.
or sadness, or because when the mind gets involved, it always twists it. Just like I showed the brain twist in the brain. You know, and thanks to cinema and theater, we have all these emotions that are thrown at us, and we thought, oh, that's what love is, or that was. But you know, I remember Krishnamurti used to say that if you can be 100% angry, you'll be enlightened. You know, if you can be 100% of one thing, but we're not, our mind just confuses them, you know, and that's what's beautiful about animals. They feel the emotions, they are the emotion. It's simple. But we just and that's the danger of explaining these different models to you, because it sounds like it's more information, but actually if you go into the 5 basic emotions practice, you're surprised by what those emotions really are once the mind is taken to the side. Then you have the 3 different emotional regulation styles of emotional regulation, and they make sense. Obviously, there's the threat, there's the soothing, and then there's the drive. So what if you practice meditation in drive? So you have the drive, right? I am going to focus my attention. I'm going to use my drive. I'm very good at achieving things, so I'm going to achieve total samadhi, total peace, by focusing on my breath. And then every time it slips, I'm going to get angry at myself because I haven't achieved. That is not the right approach for mindfulness. The mindfulness approach is a little bit of drive, because you have to have that effort in the beginning, but it's also the soothing to recognize that actually, you know, this is the human condition. The mind wanders, and every time it wanders, it's like a grandparent with a grandchild. You know, the grandchild is in this room full of toys, and it's been allowed to play with the toys all its childhood by its parents. It's been spoiled rotten, totally spoiled child. And the grandparent comes to stay with one toy and says, no, you can only play with this toy. And the child runs and, no, I want to play with it. No, just this toy. No, just this toy. But with love and compassion. Come on, just this toy. And every time it goes, say, come, let's just play with this one toy. That's it. So it's this soothing, but a little bit of effort to begin with. That's the kind of, and also, you know, then what happens, especially somebody who's really driven in their life, and they fail, then that's a threat. Then they go into the threat system. Oh my God, I can't do this. I'm crazy. I thought I was really together, but I'm crazy because I can't even do this simple thing. And then it creates a threat. That's why the soothing is really important. And then the emotional styles, it's more kind of scientific, if you like, but you can also recognize what style your personality is and whether it's serving you or not. You know, it's whether you actually, I'm too optimistic. I really, you know, people just don't take me seriously because I'm always saying, hey, it's a great day, isn't it? Or maybe I need to actually be a bit more soulful about, you know, or who knows. But, you know, you can assess yourself and say, oh, actually, I need to practice a little bit to level out my emotional styles.
And we need to take in consideration and assess also the level of our connectiveness with our emotions, because we can be disconnected from our emotions. This is one of the things that I was talking today at my first session with the therapist. That's I consciously disconnected myself from my emotions, and then after I met my wife, I consciously started to reconnect to my emotions, because I wanted to share the beauty of sharing these emotions, you know, because she's really connected. It has to do also with the fact that we are men. We, like you said, sometimes men they don't understand nothing, you know. They get focused at something, their body, they drop, they lose an arm, but they keep on going, and you lost an arm, and it doesn't matter, I have to do this. My focus is not there, because I myself sometimes get disconnected from my emotion really quickly. So maybe even before talking about this emotional style, you need to assess yourself where you stand with your emotions. Can you really assess your emotions? Are you connected with your emotions so you can recognize them?
Mm-hmm.
This is also, I think, an important step for us. And maybe mindfulness can help you do this and really, be more aware, especially this kind of types of exercises when you talk with somebody, but you also have your awareness on you. And you just see what happens also inside you, not just on the outside. Okay.
Mm. So we're almost.
I think the emotion travels lightly,
Yeah, I just realized we're almost up to 6:30 my time, 9:30, and I haven't done the main practice with you yet.
Yeah, we're gonna do it.
So are we all right to do it? All right.
Yeah, I'm here.
So there's 4 stages. The first one is we're going to work with Outlook, and that's very simple. We just think of 3 things we're grateful for, and then we're going to add a fourth, and the fourth is this breath. So you bring that sense of gratitude and appreciation to this breath. So now we shift to the focus, to the attention pillar. So from the Outlook pillar, we shift to the attention pillar. And in this, we can use this, if you remember the petal practice, to help to focus. So breathing in, breathing out, if you struggle with keeping your attention. And from there, we take the 3 precious pills. First is awareness, the stillness in the body. The second is awareness of silence in the mind. And the third is awareness of spaciousness in the mind. And then we notice the scum that rises to the top. Okay, this is just agitation or something that is just not right. Something is lacking. And whatever that is, we turn towards it. We focus on it. So this is resilience, building resilience, turning towards the difficult. And then go into Tonglen. And in Tonglen, or compassion practice, we imagine the scale of this suffering. Because if you feel it, humanity feels it. Every human, if you took out all the space between the atoms, all humanity would fit into the size of a cube of sugar. That's how close we are. So whatever that suffering is you have, it's common to all humanity. So what you do is you breathe in all of that human suffering, and you breathe out the wish to be free from it. Or not the wish, but because you're aware of it, you feel it, you can also be wish for humanity to be free from that particular suffering. So if it's, for instance, if the suffering is associated with something like being a woman or a man or a nationality, then you breathe it to that group of people, or you can do it to all of humanity. Okay, so those are the 4 stages, and I'll talk you through it again. So are we ready? So let's close our eyes. And bring to the mind's eye, 3 things that you feel grateful for at this time. 3 things. And as you bring them to mind, really feel that gratitude or that appreciation for those three things. Don't make them general, make them quite specific. Okay, and now when you've gone through three things that you're grateful for, add a fourth. And that fourth is this breath that you're breathing right now. And in that gratitude for this breath, having that gentle appreciation and when you're grateful for something and you appreciate it, you really take care to notice the whole breath, the whole process of breathing in, maybe pausing before breathing out, not needing to change your breath in any way. And this isn't a gratitude for breathing in general, or the idea of breathing. It's this breath. And this breath. And if you find the mind doesn't want to settle, you can do this petal practice, opening your hand, fingers opening and closing. If you need this support of this petal practice, then use it. Feeling real appreciation for this breath. And now the mind has started to settle a little bit. Let's take the 3 precious pills. So the first pill is a white pill. And when we take this pill, we become aware of stillness in the body. Stillness in the body. And now with the red pill, when we take the red pill, we become aware of silence. Even if there is noise around us or the chattering of the mind, there is also silence. And the last pill, the third pill, is a blue pill. And when we take the blue pill, we become aware of spaciousness. The mind might be full of thoughts or mental events, like the sky is cloudy, but when we take the blue pill, we become aware that behind all that, the sky is blue. The mind is infinite space. The blue pill, when we take it, we become aware of infinite space. And now simply resting our attention in awareness itself, just sitting. And there's a saying that the mind, if you don't stir it, like a glass of muddy water, settles and becomes clear. So when we rest our attention and awareness, we don't need to stir the mind. But it's often the case that, like a glass of muddy water, the mud settles, but also some rises to the top. Some agitation, some discomfort, some unease, some anxiety, or maybe a physical pain or tension. And rather than this being a problem, what if we welcomed it? What if we invited it in? What if we sat with this discomfort? What if we recognize this discomfort as a kind of suffering that maybe we've endured a lot of for a long time, but is part of the human condition? It's part of being human. And that there are humans who have this suffering all around the world, this particular discomfort, to varying degrees, some to a very high degree and others just slightly, have this particular discomfort in their lives. It could be the discomfort of having a mind that isn't always friendly, or a mind that doesn't behave like you want it to, or a body that has pain, or the more subtle sense of feeling incomplete, of there being something missing, something not quite right. Or it could be this feeling of uncertainty, of not knowing. And whatever it is, I invite you now to, when you breathe in, feel that suffering on a human level, on the global level. And when you breathe out, wishing that all humanity, maybe even all sentient beings, be free of this. So when you breathe in, receiving that suffering from all sentient beings, and breathing out the wish to be free from it. breathing in the suffering, breathing out, wish to be free of it. And as we come to the end of this practice, the 4 pillars of well-being, simply resting again in this awareness. For a few moments more before opening your eyes. If you need to move your body and stretch, hey, I'm sorry that we went over by some 20 minutes there. Looking forward to seeing you all soon. So the next session or 2 sessions we'll be doing in real life, I guess. Or maybe we'll pause and continue after I come back. We can decide. So how was that practice before we finish? Anybody want to share?
I don't want it to stop.
Mhm.
I told you I love these practices. It would be nice to do, even if we don't do the whole, maybe we don't do the whole session, because it would be nice to have them recorded, so we have the whole weeks and we can revisit. Or if we do it, at least to have also the link. Maybe there are some people who cannot join live and they can be online. But it would be nice to have when we meet, to have like 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 15-minute sessions of practice together, you know, before or after, or when you feel. Because it's always nice to practice with people. It gives you that sense of shared experience that helps you get into it, you know. Just get in the mood, in the vibe. Everything that's shared, it helps motivate you go further. It would be nice just to test. And it will help us to align also for what we have to do. Get in the same vibe, in the same mindset. It would be nice to test. See how it goes.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye, bye. Thank you. Thank you, Ivana.
Thank you.